Tens of thousands of protesters gathered in Tel Aviv to protest the, quote, end of democracy. The question is, are they in fact protesting democracy being played out in Israel's government? There have been several terror attacks in Judea and Samaria in the last week, all against Jews for existing in their homeland. It's actually pretty simple. And for the good news of the day, the new finance minister is confiscating PA tax money to give to the families of terror victims. Why is that good news, you may ask? Find out on today's show. I'm Josiah, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of Jew hatred and anti-Israel propaganda that you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Welcome back to the show, guys. Great to be back with you this week. I was actually, you may have noticed, out on vacation last week. Didn't make it to the studio, but glad to be back on the show here with you guys today. We've got a lot to talk about. What's happening in Israel? A lot happening, especially with Israel's new government that is creating a lot of, you could say, a lot of waves around the world, especially in Israel itself. First off, make sure you subscribe. We really appreciate it. It's a very simple thing you can do, but it really helps us grow our content and help it get out to more people. We're actually hoping, right now we're at 60,000 subscribers on YouTube, almost 60,000, not quite. But we're hoping to get to 100,000 by the end of this year. Would really appreciate it if you just hit that subscribe button, if you appreciate what we do, and also send it to your friends who may be interested in learning about what's happening in Israel. We're just learning about keeping up with the news and keeping up with what is actually going on, the true facts, what's going on the ground here. Also, we're on other social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We've been posting a lot of things on our Twitter page and hoping to grow that as well. So go give us a follow there, like our pages on Facebook, Instagram. Really appreciate it. Appreciate that. It helps us out on all these social media platforms. We're trying to grow our content online, which, as you know, in the world of big tech and censorship, it's very hard to do for people like us with the work we do here in Israel. All right, Saturday afternoon, there was a massive demonstration, protest in Tel Aviv, and they were gathering together to protest Israel's new government, Netanyahu's new, as the New York Times and CNN like to say, the extremist right-wing government led by Benjamin Netanyahu. This protest was dubbed Fighting for Democracy. Very interesting name, seeing as what they're actually protesting against. It was supposed to begin at 7:00 p.m. Saturday evening in Tel Aviv, the Habima Square in Tel Aviv. And a bunch of protesters started marching around the square there. Some actually attempted to block the Ayalon Highway there in Tel Aviv. Actually, at the protest itself, the organizers handed out a ton of Israeli flags to promote the identity. It's supposed to be something about the identity of Israel and things. They handed out Israeli flags, but there was reports that a lot of people spotted a lot of PLO flags, the PA, the Palestinian Liberation Organization flags, which is basically the Palestinian Authority flags, along with, very interestingly enough, flags of Antifa in Israel as well. Kind of gives you a peek into who these people might actually be who are protesting the Israel's government, who is supposedly democracy right now, protesting against that. And let us know in the comments if you think that who these guys really are, if they're truly fighting for democracy enough. I don't know, the Antifa flags kind of give it away, as well as the PLO flags. The PLO stands against the existence of the state of Israel. It's kind of not a very good thing to be waving around at a rally promoting the identity of the state of Israel. So there were reports that around 80,000 protesters showed up in the Tel Aviv Habima Square on Saturday night. At the same time, there was around 2,000 protesters in Haifa, as well as Jerusalem. There were around 1,500 to 2,000 protesters there. They protested outside the prime minister's residence, as well as the president's residence in Jerusalem there. The chairman of the Bar Association, Avi Himi, who's definitely left-wing, stated, quote, "Democracies don't die from atom bombs. The first dying flutter of every democracy begins with the crushing of the judicial system." which is the main break on the power of the government and the main protection of the citizen against the power of the regime. The washed-up reform they are trying to impose on us threatens to poison Israel's democracy, end quote. So as you probably have heard, and if you haven't heard, a great watch Friday's show. Joshua and Luke talked all about what the actual judicial reforms that Netanyahu's government is trying to push through right now, what they actually are, and are they, in fact, promoting to end democracy, as all the left has been promoting online. The media has been so prevalent in making such a big deal out of this, saying that this is the end of the state of Israel. This is the end of the democratic state of Israel. In fact, it's really not. Go watch Friday's show to get the whole scoop on what the actual reforms are and what they mean for the state of Israel, and especially Israel's democracy. And in no way are these reforms ending democracy. They're actually pushing forward and promoting the democratic state of Israel. And these officials, the new government in Israel, has been democratically elected. This is what the people want. The people want judicial reforms. This is what Netanyahu campaigned on. People in his party talked about this leading up to it. And so that the people are getting what they voted for. They voted for this new government, and then now they're trying to push through these new reforms. But obviously, the guys in the opposition, Lapid and Benny Gantz, and all these left-wing parties, Arab parties, are all majorly up in arms against this. And it seems they're going to some pretty extreme lengths to try to thwart this and fight against this new Benjamin Netanyahu's new government in Israel. MK Benny Gantz, who's in the opposition now, called on the public to attend the demonstration in Tel Aviv, stating, quote, "It is true that it is a little cold, but this is our country. Let everyone take the Israeli flag in one hand, an umbrella in the other, and come to protect democracy and the law in the state of Israel. We will meet in the square," end quote. Also, MK Elazar Stern, who is from Yesh Atid, which is Yair Lapid's party, expressed regret that there was no religious or Haredi representation at the demonstration in Tel Aviv. He told Israel National News, quote, "It pains me that they did not come. After Rabin's murder, they said they don't want us in the demonstrations, but the time for this excuse is over. We want religious Zionism in these demonstrations." Maybe the reason that there were no religious or Haredi representations at the demonstration is because all the religious and Haredi, or most of them, are very much in favor of what this new government is doing. They're backing this new government, which holds a lot of religious and Haredi members of Knesset in the actual Knesset. Maybe they're very much in favor of it. And it is interesting to note that this massive demonstration and protest took place not in Jerusalem. They did have protesters there as well, but not near as many. It took place in Tel Aviv, which is a very, very liberal city. It stands for a lot of liberal and woke things, policies, and ideologies inside of Tel Aviv itself. And it's really no surprise that there weren't very many religious or ultra-Orthodox people at this demonstration and trying to protest against Israel's government, and really the democratically elected government that is now in power in the state of Israel. Very right-wing, and seems like they're going to be doing some very, very good things for the state of Israel. The chairman of the movement for the quality of government, it seems to be, I think these might have been the organizers of the event, said at the demonstration, he said, quote, "Children of light, I tell you today we are all together and we will not be deterred. We will continue to lead and manage the battle for the image and identity of the state of Israel as a democratic and as a liberal state," end quote. The question I have here is, why is he's saying this is the battle for the image and the identity of the state of Israel? I'm starting to wonder what his identity for the state of Israel is, if he is there at this protest, and many people brought PLO flags. What does the PLO stand for? It stands for the end and the destruction of the state of Israel, for all Jews to be wiped off the face of the earth, off the map, pushed into the sea. These are things they stand for. Also, I mean, just the subversion of government, trying to take over what's happening. And obviously, it's the democratic right of the people in Israel to demonstrate. That's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine to protest things you don't like that the government is doing, things like that. But in no way should this turn into a civil war. In no way should this turn into something more serious, to riots, violence. And as we saw, the reports of Antifa flags there. What has Antifa been doing in the United States? The last 2-3 years, we saw a lot of it happening violence, riots, things like that. Not good, and we hope this will not come to the state of Israel, the streets of Israel. And it seems like a lot of the leaders on the left are really trying to, really pushing that and kind of inciting that push towards maybe something more serious and more violent. It's very, very unfortunate. The National Security Minister, Ben-Gvir, received a briefing about the protest because he's in charge of the police now, from the police commissioner in Tel Aviv. He expressed satisfaction that the demonstrators did not come with Nazi symbols. Ben-Gvir reportedly asked the police not to give the protesters the photos that they want. So it's telling his officers and the guys under him that, hey, we need to act responsibly, and we don't want to give in to this leftist thing of going out to like where the left would go out to protest and the police might come in and give them maybe violent photos or things like that, where they're trying to control the protest there as well. The Tel Aviv district chief, Ami Ashad, he told his officers before the demonstration was about to take place, he said, quote, "Our main goal is that anyone who comes to the demonstration can do so in an orderly fashion and leave in a safe and orderly fashion. We have one interest: to allow the demonstration to take place in any way possible. That's our central goal. Our only goal is to deal with vandalism and violence." And as you can see, if this is really the end of democracy, and people say Itamar Ben-Gvir is this far-right extremist, like they're claiming him to be, why would, as he's now in charge of the police force and things like that, why wouldn't he just say, okay, we're going to shut down this protest, send everybody home, use riot control against these people coming to protest? No, he's not, because he is a democratically elected official in Israel's government. This is democracy. People have a right to protest. They have a right to demonstrate. And obviously it's coming down to the chain of command. The deputy commissioner saying, we're letting this demonstration happen. It's perfectly fine. All we're doing here as the police force, keeping everybody safe, stopping potential vandalism and potential violence that could take place when a lot of people gather together. And a lot of times tempers tend to get a little hot in situations like that. So we could see a very, very responsible response from the police, and very responsible stance on the demonstration and what's happening there, headed up by Itamar Ben-Gvir, the National Security Minister of Israel. Also, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responded to claims against his judicial reform and against people saying that he's, ending democracy. He said, defended his government's positions on and reforming the judicial system. And he called on the opposition leaders to stop threatening civil war and speaking of the destruction of the state. And we've seen statements similar to that. I'm not exactly sure if they said exactly that. Lapid has made statements saying that it could lead, I think, to civil war in Israel, what Netanyahu is doing. And obviously that's kind of, that's very much an incitement on his part to be threatening things like that against Israel's government, or against the sitting government. He's obviously in the government as well, but he's in the opposition. And we definitely never saw anything like this when Lapid was the prime minister. We never saw Benjamin Netanyahu threatening civil war. We never saw him saying that by the left being in power in Israel, that it was the end of democracy or things they pushed forward. We didn't see that coming from Benjamin Netanyahu. And now, only when the right is in power, this is now what the left is saying against the government. So that's kind of a little bit of a recap of Saturday's demonstration and kind of what's going on in Israel. And obviously there are a lot of people upset, and it seems that the main reason for this is the lack of information and the lack of what this judicial reform actually is in Israel. Obviously the media is just painting it out as this massive, horrible thing that's supposedly going to destroy the nation of Israel. It's going to destroy the democracy in Israel. When actually it's not. If you look at it, if you read it, if you take a close look at their judicial reforms, it's actually very good, and it's going to increase democracy in Israel. A lot of good things coming there, so we hope to see that push forward in Israel. And Israel is going to continue to be a democratic nation in the Middle East. Obviously, the only democracy in the Middle East. Look what's happening right here. All right, there have been several attacks in Judea and Samaria in the last week. Shots were fired at an Israeli bus just yesterday, on Sunday, I think in the afternoon. Shots were fired at an Israeli bus near the town of Halul in the Etzion in the Gush Etzion area region there. Thankfully, there were no injuries, but the bus sustained damage as a result of the shooting. The IDF forces searched the area very carefully. They found the bullet casings, didn't find the perpetrators of this shooting attack. The head of the Gush Etzion Regional Council, Shlomo Naaman, responded to the shooting attack saying, quote, terrorism must be eradicated by strengthening the settlement and enterprise of the Jewish presence throughout Judea and Samaria. We are strengthening the IDF soldiers and the new government in their war for the security of the settlement enterprise and the security of the entire state of Israel, end quote. That was the regional council head, Shlomo Naaman. Also, I think it was on Shabbat, on Saturday, there were rocks thrown at a Jewish family's home in the city of Lod. Now, Lod is not in Judea and Samaria. It's out right next to Tel Aviv up there. But we saw in May of 2021, there were a lot of riots that took place, Arab riots attacking Jewish houses, attacking synagogues, burning, vandalizing, things like that, happening in the Israeli town of Lod. Also, there was a stabbing attack in Samaria near the town of Ofra. There was a bunch of Arabs that started throwing stones at IDF soldiers near the town of Ofra. One of them pulled out a knife and ran towards the soldiers. Soldiers were very quickly shot and neutralized the terrorist and prevented him from attacking and potentially murdering Israeli soldiers there near the town of Ofra. Thankfully, there were no casualties in the attack. And these are just a few things I saw that happened this week in Judea and Samaria. And I'm not giving you these terror attacks, reporting these terror attacks to make you scared or to prevent you potentially from making your trip to Israel. This is not at all the case. Listen, you guys need to know about what's happening in Judea and Samaria. These attacks are happening, unfortunately, as we've seen on a daily basis in Judea and Samaria, Arabs attacking Jews just for being Jews living in the state of Israel. And you guys need to know what's happening. Unfortunately, there's this insane reality that Arabs are attacking Jews only because they live in Israel and only because they exist in the state of Israel. And the world needs to know about that. The world needs to know that this is happening on an everyday basis, and we cannot be okay with it. We have to speak out and say we need to put a stop to what is happening inside of Judea and Samaria. But don't be scared and don't cancel your trip to Israel. It's an amazing place. You should come and visit the Judea and Samaria, especially. Absolutely incredible. All right, guys, we got to wrap up here, but we have some good news for the day. There PA tax funds were confiscated by the new finance minister in Netanyahu's government, Bezalel Smotrich. He confiscated 139 million shekels of tax funds designated for the Palestinian Authority and is now transferring them to the families of terror victims, mostly from terror attacks from the second Intifada period. So quite a while ago, terror attacks happened then. He's taking these funds that were designated for PA tax funds and transferring to the families of terror victims here inside of Israel. And why is this a good thing? And you might be asking, how are they confiscating tax funds from the Palestinian Authority? I don't know if you know this, but Israel collects taxes for the PA. Kind of shows you the incompetence of the PA themselves. They can't really do it themselves, or they don't have the competence to do it. Israel collects the taxes for the PA and then gives it to them. So now what they're saying is that he's confiscating, withholding these taxes and giving them to the victims of terror families, because he's saying we're not going to give you this tax money until you stop paying terrorists to murder Jews. It's actually a very, very simple thing. It's a very good thing. It's what's happening. It's great. Smotrich said about his decision and about the move to transfer the funds to the victims of terror families. He said, quote, "We promised to amend, and today we are amending. There's no bigger justice than offsetting. This is not condolence, but this is justice." He was asked Smotrich was asked on whether this was legal or not. Smotrich said, quote, "Over 8 months ago, the court ordered the previous government to offset the funding to pay the victims reparations. The previous government scoffed at the ruling and refused to fulfill it. We are upholding it, and that's the natural and desirable thing to do. The Palestinian Authority has to decide if it wants to exist and stop promoting terrorism, or stop existing. There's no way that, on the other hand, the PA is a partner. On the other hand, it promotes the murder of Israeli citizens." I mean, this statement is very, very simple. He's saying the Palestinian Authority has to decide, do they want money to keep running the Palestinian Authority government and stop promoting terrorism, or are they just going to continue to promote terrorism, continue to pay terrorists, and therefore not get any more money, tax money that Israel is collecting and giving to them? Very simple for the PA. They have to stop promoting terrorism. They want to be a true partner for peace, and a true for there to something happen for them to continue to exist in Judea and Samaria and governing their own people, the Palestinian people inside of Judea and Samaria. All right. Also, kind of on this note here is that a senior Palestinian Authority official, I think there was a Palestinian Martyrs Day, was January 7th. Something like this, but he was at an event, and this guy is likely to succeed, thought possible, likely successor to the PA leader Mahmoud Abbas, successor of his. It is actually considered moderate by many people. Tell me if you think he is moderate after you hear what he said at this event, the Palestinian Martyrs Day event. He said, quote, "I would like to reassure you of our firm and unwavering commitment. Our martyrs, prisoners, and their families are where we cross the line. Even if we have one penny left, it will be spent on the families of the martyrs and prisoners. They are our purest, most permanent, loftiest, and most precious jewel." I think you got your answer on whether the Palestinian Authority is going to stop paying terrorists. They said, even with our last penny, we're not going to give it to the poor of our people who are suffering, who are in bad housing and don't have enough food. No, we're going to give it to the families of people who murder Jews. Guys, it's very, very simple. This is what's happening. This has got to stop. And this is what the new finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, is trying to stop in his new position in Netanyahu's government. And that is a very, very good thing. We hope and pray that this will stop. The payment to terrorists will stop. And we need to speak out, and we need to know about what's happening so we can speak out and inform others of the truth of what is actually taking place. Guys, subscribe, get the conversation going in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What's happening? What you think about the judicial reforms in Israel? What you think about the protesters coming against? What did you think about these new ministers making these policies and these moves in Israel? Are they good for the state of Israel? Are they bad? Get it going in the comments below. We love engaging with you there. In the meantime, tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening in the land of Israel. We'll be back every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.